See here. Okay, Commissioner, here we are again for our weekly video, and I think really the theme this week is, without question, the strength of our staff that was exemplified literally every day, Monday through Friday, between our listening tours, our leadership summit, our fatherhood conference. Honestly, where do we begin?
I am so full. I'm emotionally full. All I can say is that the week has been filled with the DCF that I know, the
Yeah.
DCF that rolls up its sleeves, comes together, helps each other, continues to improve how we do the work that we do in the finest of ways, holding ourselves accountable to the highest standards. And I've just been so proud to lead this week in particular. It's been really good.
I think for the staff listening, seeing this video, and then they're going to read the memo. I think one of the proudest moments for me as an exec team member is being with staff in the listening tours and just seeing the questions and the camaraderie and the praise that the individual offices are giving to each one of their staff members at all levels. And that has been consistent going back 2 weeks when we started our listening tours in the facilities.
Mm-hmm.
And the leadership summit this week, where we really, again, led by you, had our call to action and discussed our change initiatives per division to ensure that we are identifying one initiative that is measurable, that will prove to be effective. So combined, we can move the needle in regards to disproportionality and disparate treatment across our agency. Um,
It was some
it was
tremendous, tremendous work being thought out related to kind of our anti-racist actions to move us to a more racially just agency. Very specific leadership initiatives to think about how to do that and change outcomes. Really specific charge to the leadership to guide the values of their respective workplace, and connecting actions to activities
yeah.
really moves the needle. And I'm so excited with the things that I heard, very specifically intended strategies that, we'll be able to measure. So, in the coming months, we'll have at least, oh man, what is close to 20 change initiatives that we're starting across the agency. So I'm really excited to be able to see that work start to come to life.
And as you have said, it's plan, study, do, act. Let's
Mm-hmm.
narrow down specifics and let's see where that will take us. And that then was followed by 2 days of a fatherhood conference where we collaborated with Central Connecticut State University, My Peoples, the statewide fatherhood initiative, and other entities to put on. The only words I can use are an absolute all-star cast of people, from day one to Friday afternoon, talking about the roles and the importance of fathers, especially uh, African American and Hispanic fathers, and their role within families.
This fatherhood conference now in its sixth year,
Six, yeah,
every year I've said is an opportunity for me to recharge my fatherhood battery. As a self-proclaimed daddy's girl, I recognize the importance of paying attention to that. And this year, the focus was on equity, and it's very timely considering the current racial unrest, but also the call to how to do that. How do you tune in and engage fathers, particularly fathers of color or fathers of children of color,
yep,
to understand the particular challenges that Black and Indigenous people of color are experiencing. And it is just amazing the wealth of knowledge that we have here across Connecticut. Our two main stage keynote speakers were Dr. Reggie Eady of the Trinity Health Network, the president and CEO of that, and then Wisdom Powell closed us out today with,
yeah,
just a lot of academic references to how we understand radical healing and the importance of recognizing how we view and how we treat kids that we are working with and the experience that they come through that fatherhood equity lens. So both of them really anchored both days really, really well. So shout out to the planning committee of, Anthony and Jen and Jeff and Joe and Steve and all the other people who, came together to really make a tremendously successful conference, put another one in the record books. They did a great job.
Absolutely. And then I believe we filmed it as well. So we're trying to
Oh,
post
good.
it back to staff at a later point, as well as the leadership summit. So look for those links via some separate documents as well. And as we continue this theme of the strength of staff, once again, right, our IT department,
IT all-stars,
unbelievable work. Commissioner, let me run these numbers by you. 80 Chromebooks to Solent North and South, 300 additional tablets being distributed this month, 300 new phones for the Hartford office, and 800 additional VDI VPN accounts being created. The Windows 10 migration has been completed, and the 365 cloud migration has been completed. That's a mic drop.
It really is. It really is. Our ITIS departments are really, working on overdrive to make sure that we stay connected, and, staying connected in this particular time in our department's development is critical. We've had tremendous feedback from our families and our constituents about how we've remained involved. But this is also a time to remind everyone that, there's things that we can do, like our casework, like our kids staying connected through those Chromebooks at Solent, like mandatory trainings. The sexual harassment training that we'll send a link to in this week's memo is one of those things that's mandatory for our department. You can do it online. Everyone who has not done it, please, of our regulars who watch this, make sure you've done it, and then call somebody to make sure they do it, because we could be fined. And anytime that there's a penalty attached to something, it takes away from our budget for something else. So we really need to be mindful of that. And also, speaking of the staying connected virtually, now all those phones that we just got disseminated, want to make sure everybody updates their phone, the state phone number on their desk recording. So the number that people have for you at your desk, make sure it's updated with your state phone so you can, stay connected and people know how to get in touch with you. What other things do we have to update? I'm not sure. I don't have the list in front of me, but sure. I know you do.
Sure. So what we want to make sure staff do is on their automatic email response back, and on their normal email, indicate on there who their supervisor is, what their supervisor's email address is, and both their cell phone and their supervisor's cell phone. So if an email is received by a staff member and they're on vacation or out in the field and a response pops back and it's an emergency, there's a way that the individual who sent an email knows how to contact our staff via cell phone. We also want to do that, as you said, on our desk phone. So when we have our outgoing message, indicate we're not at our desk. Here's our work cell phone.
Yeah, your work phone.
Yeah, work phone, work personal cell phone, right? And here's my supervisor's name, their email address, and their cell phone. Again, we can never over communicate that information, I think. And in our memo, we're going to include a link where we want all staff to go in and ensure that in the DCF employee directory, all that information is correct. And you'll see a button at the top of that directory where it talks about updating my info. We want that site updated as well, because we're going to post that on our DCF website. So when individuals in the community want to access our staff and they don't know any direct number, they can look up the staff there and get those numbers. So it's really, really key that we remain as responsive as we have been since March. And we brought this up before on these videos.
Yeah.
Staff have done a phenomenal job. It's another reminder to stay vigilant with the communication.
That's right.
And where we are.
All of the state equipment is, for your ability to do your job. So we want to make sure that, you connect your state equipment to the ability to the information that connects your state equipment to our constituents. So let's make sure that all of that information is updated and accurate so we can still stay connected.
So our last topic before we get to the statistics actually has to do with court etiquette. And not something we've had to talk about for a long time, but courts are now opening up. They've always maintained level 1 hearings, but there are additional families and petitions that particular courts are going to hear. There are some basic court etiquette pieces now in this virtual environment that we wanted to review with staff.
Yeah, the courts are opening more in-person hearings, but they're also doing some remote matters. And so we want to make sure that there are certain things that, just to refresh us on the etiquette for court. Remember, we were talking to the staff down in Norwalk the other day. There was a staff member that was headed to court. He was all spiffy. So we want to remind everybody that, you know, when you're going to court virtually or in person, that you dress the part, that you dress appropriately for court. If you are conducting court business remotely, want to make sure that you are in a place free from feedback. You know, dogs barking, babies crying, people talking in the background, TV's on, radio is on. Go to a quiet space so your testimony and what you are saying can be heard clearly and transcribed. Because just like you and I are talking right now, there's certain things that you can hear me say. But if we were being recorded, as we are for the video purposes, if it had to be transcribed, sometimes the noises that are happening, a candy wrapper opening, or, you know, somebody tapping on the microphone, or even tapping on a desk, makes it hard. Yeah, it makes the transcription inaudible, which could result in a impacting the disposition of a case because they can't hear what is happening. So making sure you're clearly in a place of no distractions and that you don't create additional distractions. And the issue we raised a couple of days ago, a couple of weeks ago, and that is the confidentiality piece. Absolutely. The work that we are doing requires privacy. You know, our families that we work with require us to keep their information in a private and confidential way. And so we want to make sure that that happens in our regular day-to-day casework, but also in our court work. So those three things: dress for court, reduce the feedback and the noise to make sure that your testimony and discussions are clear, and make sure we maintain an air of confidentiality and we're not talking openly about family or individual information. Absolutely,
absolutely. So at this point in our video, for staff who do not want to hear the most recent update regarding COVID-19 diagnosis, you can certainly shut off your camera at this point. So we, again, we've seen another uptick this week in positive diagnoses. We have 85 caregivers in total that have been positive at one point, 35 youth and 38 staff. So I think our slight uptick is mirroring what's happening across Connecticut as schools are opening, as colleges are opening. Mm-hmm. So we are not saying this to cause rampant alarm, but again, a good reminder to be vigilant. As you indicated last week, Commissioner, when you are conducting state business, the mask needs to be on. We have procedures in place for who can and can't enter buildings, for visitation. Any other tips or comments would you like to offer?
Yeah, one of the trends we saw is that a lot of the most recent positives were associated to family positives, so the caregiver plus the children in their home. So, you know, just recognizing that the more our kids, families, staff interact in the general public, the more likely you could expose yourself to some level of transmission. So staying vigilant in the hand washing and hand hygiene, as well as the face coverings, I think are the most important reminders. We might sound like a broken record, but at the end of the day, those are the things that are going to keep us all safe. You know, this is, we're going into the cold and flu season. Reminding staff that the information will be coming out about flu shots and whether or not you want to do that in a physical location at one of our sites, or to go to one of the local CVS's, or any pharmacy that keeps our that takes our insurance. That's always covered. You don't need any special, you know, code or anything like that. Any pharmacy that takes our insurance, you can go and have a flu shot. And this year it's very highly recommended, just given the respiratory nature of COVID.
Yep, absolutely. So I think that covers what we really wanted to impart to staff this week. I'm sure in another week we're going to have many other updates. So Commissioner, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Yeah, thank you.
We will see you soon.
Thanks so much, Ken. Enjoy your weekend too. Bye, everyone.